This is the part of the show where we have our book review. Really interesting one today. I Was the King of Spain. If you're wondering about that, this is a story. It's been said it's somewhere between Spike Milligan and Al Murray. A story of someone who went from tyre fitter to market trader, confronting mental health issues and being institutionalized, believing that he was, in fact, the King of Spain, to finding true love. It's a story written by and about my next guest, who I'm really pleased to say joins me now, Griffiths. Griff, thank you for joining me today.
Hello there. Hello, Trisha.
I can hear you. Thank you, Griff. Lovely. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about where this all began. I always ask this question. Yeah, you as a kid, to who you became all the way through. Who was the raw content of Griffiths? Let me ask that.
First of all, I was just listening to the advert and it said, Talk TV, the home of common sense. And then you get me on. So I don't know what's going on there. But what happened was, I'm the seventh. My mother is, she's the seventh daughter of a Romany gypsy family, which means she's a witch. So I've had a very interesting life. My whole life's been very interesting. For example, the first school I went to, everybody at the school was pretty much one of my family members. And she married my dad, who just come out of the army, and he's the seventh son of one of the seven dwarfs, because he's a tiny little fella. And I've had a very interesting life, really. My whole life's been very interesting. And I just thought, during lockdown, I was speaking to someone. They said, who's the most famous person you played chess with? And I said, it was God. I played chess with a bloke who thought he was God when I was in the Priory. And one thing led to another, and that's how the book came about, which is, as we see here, there we are. That's me.
There it is, the King of Spain, and there's Gary Griffiths on the front there. So Gary, let's talk about how you came to believe you were the King of Spain. You touched upon being in the Priory. What led to you believing that you were the King of Spain?
I was a professional musician. I made my first record when I was 14, and usual as you know, normal kid at school. And then as soon as I had my first record at the age 14, my picture was in my picture was in the Record Mirror, New Musical Express, and all of a sudden all the girls kind of like fancied me at school. So one thing led to another, and I had I think about 25 records out. I was a professional musician for 20 odd years. I got out of the music industry and I started a furniture company, and I was working literally about 15 years. I had about 15 people working for me at the end. And I worked so hard, it blew my mind. And I was sitting there one day, I was sitting on this big chair, which to me resembled a throne. And I just gave, I would say, 90% of my stock in the shop away, thinking I was a true Mediterranean monarch. And I ended up in the Priory, 2 stints in the Priory. But when I came out of there, I used that as a real positive, and I became a professional comedian. I used the fact that I thought I was a King of Spain to my benefit, and used it as a real, as it made it into a positive, really.
So take me back to, as far as your mental health was concerned, did it seem to come out of nowhere? Or looking back, was it a gradual sort of, it came out of nowhere? You thought you were killing it. You were, doing everything. You were go, and then whammo.
Absolutely. It was very well. They tested me for drugs and for drink and stuff, because obviously they thought that was the problem. But there was a chemical imbalance. I think it was a lot to do with I was working so hard when I started a business from scratch. From like working in a shed in my parents' garden to end up having like 2 sales reps, one for the north of England, one for the south of England, showrooms, about 12 people working for me. And it literally just pow out of nowhere, and it ruined my life, really. I mean, I got divorced, I sold my business, I didn't see my son for a while, and it was a real life-changing thing, really. I mean, but one of the reasons behind the book is because I really wanted to sort of show that I combated that through without having any drugs to combat it anyway. I kept myself fit, bought myself a dog, I do a lot of training. And it was a life-changing experience. But like I said, Trisha, I used that negative into a positive, and I became a comedian for 5 years. So I'm sure that a lot of your listeners out there would have seen me. I used to shout and scream about I'm not the real King of Spain. And then one thing led to I think I've done 3 Edinburgh shows in the end. And I've still got very good friends from the comedy world, like Joe Wilkinson, Henning Vane. I've still got very good friends from the comedy world. But it's all part of a life's rich tapestry, really, Trisha.
It is. You're not going to be, because we've got the book up on the screen there. There you are, Griffiths. I was the King of Spain. Do I look like a Spaniard to you? I love it. We've got it up on the screen.
I'm feeling the sun, Trisha.
Yeah, you feel, yeah, exactly. So why do you think you decided the King of Spain? Was it just something from nowhere, or had you been influenced? Because, you know, one of the things I think, you know, and all of us, our mental health and our mental illness takes different shapes. But those nights when you're ruminating, going, your brain's going 200 miles an hour. And often if we don't feel that we've got control or power, we imagine ourselves as somebody who does. Might that have been part of it for you?
Well, the brain's it's a very intricate beast, isn't it? You know, that you never, certainly the people that I've met with mental issues have never woken up thinking, I'm a plumber or I'm a carpenter. They've always, wanted to transpire to be someone who's maybe in the public eye. And for some reason, the King of Spain came out. And I can't speak Spanish. I have been to Spain, but I peel in the sun. I've never seen a bullfight. I've never owned a pair of espadrilles. I can't lambada. I don't really like paella. You know, so I don't know where that came about. But yes, well, there we are. But like I say, I use that as a positive.
But I was going to ask you, Griff, what did you do as the King of Spain? What sort of things did you do when in your mind, you absolutely believed you were the King of Spain?
I didn't. Well, no one's ever asked me that question, to be honest with you. I didn't really have any royal duties, and I abdicated. It wasn't really what I thought it would be. I suppose. I drank a lot of sangria, I suppose. It was a very, Trisha, it was a very, I mean, I'm making very light of this here. It was a very, very, very dark period in my life. Oh, not just for myself, for my family, for my son, for my now ex-wife, who's a lovely person anyway. It was a very, very dark period in my life. And one that I will never go back to. I can't really explain it. I didn't really take on any royal roles. It was just, I don't really know, really. I'm glad that it's over, and I'm glad that I've sort of come out to the other side, and I really am pleased that I can laugh about it. I mean, taking that on stage for over 5 years, doing maybe 1,500 shows, I mean, it just shows that I managed to sort that out. But in the world of comedy, lots of people are
Do you think it was your therapy? I was going to say, do you think taking it and turning it was your therapy, turning it in, finding the humour in really, really dark times?
Absolutely.
It's what they sometimes call the gallows humour, your coping method.
Yes. Well, people thought that it was an act that I'd made up. They thought I was some kind of genius. Oh, well, this guy's amazing. But it wasn't. This actually happened to me, which I think gave it more credence and gave it more, it was more of a special entertainment. I don't know. But like I say, that the book's now come out. So, and just recently we've had a film with a documentary that Trisha, I have to keep myself busy. If I don't keep myself busy, I'm sure it's the same with most people with mental issues. If I don't keep myself busy and active, I fall down a hole, and then I find it very difficult to climb out. So I have to keep myself on the go.
No, I get you.
Whether it's walking my dog or training at the gym or boxing, I have to keep going. If there's a time when I don't, I'm either sleeping or I analyse things too much. And sometimes I will stay in bed maybe for a month, and I can't do that. My own, I have to keep going. That's why just recently we made a documentary about Croydon punk scene called Are They Hostile? That came out last year. The book's just come out. I have to, Trisha, whether these are going to change my life or not, I'm sure they won't. I still won't get a job. But it's
the thing of if you stay still too long, you're worried that your mind will turn in on itself because there's so much energy, there's so much going on in your life. But you know, let me just ask you this. What do you think, what would you have told yourself? I mean, looking back at those really dark times when
Yes.
probably the only voice you really heard, was your own voice, your own
Yes.
internal voice. If you could speak to yourself in those really dark times, you probably could not see yourself here talking with me with a book out, having
No.
done a documentary,
No,
etc. What would
absolutely.
how would you, if you could go back, how would you comfort yourself? What would you say to yourself in that really awful period that you were going through?
Well, whether it will work or not is I dedicated every waking minute to being a success with my business. I've done that when I was doing the comedy. I've done that when I was doing my drumming, but it kind of took over completely to the expense of my relationship with my friends. You know, I drive past the pub